Oh, we made it. And we are live on YouTube. Because where else would we be? So that's the thing. What else is not on here? Oh, there it is. Everything's on. Okay, good. Cool. Hey, Sam, how you doing? That was quick. That was quick. I have literally gone live like what, like 15 seconds ago or something like that. You are on the ball. I'm okay today. I'm having a weird day. Actually, today's a weird one. Because today's the day of no weed. And I really don't like it. Quite frankly, I really, really, really don't like it. And yeah, so here we are with no weed. So right now, I feel. How do I feel? Pretty not great. I'll be honest. I would chew my own arm off for a spliff at this point. I really would. Um, which is kind of the point, to be honest. It's like this is not a good. Yeah, it's a conscious decision, conscientious decision. It's meant to be anyway. That's the whole point. Look, I mean, there, right? There's so many reasons to give up smoking weed. There's so many reasons. Um, I mean, the biggest one is the health concern, right? There's a lot of health concern with it because first of all, it's smoking, and who wants to do that? Even I don't want to do that. I hate having smoke in the house. I hate that this room smells of it. Um, I don't like cigarettes. Really, I'm happy with the vape, such as that is. So the nicotine aspect of it is kind of covered. Um, but that's about it. And also, I have vaped so much today. I have felt quite ill with it because it's totally possible to do that. And I'm replacing the mechanism of smoking weed with the nicotine intake of vaping, which isn't good because I went and got one of these things just to test it. I hate these, by the way. These are disposables. This whole thing, and this is USB-C chargeable and everything. There is a battery in here. There are chips in here that control charging and all that sort of thing. I hate them. And when this runs out, this whole thing is going in the bin, which just distresses me. So I hate those, but I'm getting far more nicotine from the amount of vaping this that I have to do to cover when I would have smoked weed than I would from just smoking weed. So I've felt fairly sick from nicotine intake today, and these are quite strong as well, as far as nicotine goes. So that's been the thing, and I am now uh, sort of desperately worried about like lung cancers and all the smoking related illnesses that there are. Like I don't want those, and I don't want to do that to myself. And it's one of those things when you're 19, 20 years old and you start smoking weed, and you just sort of, yeah, there are health risks and all of that like come with smoking, but at that age you're immune to them, right? You don't care. This idea, and look, I lost all of my grandparents to smoking related illness, and despite that, you just dismiss it all. It just goes out of your head. And you have these moments of clarity in between where you're just like, what the hell am I doing? I'm going to die doing this, and this is not worth dying for. And so does that go back anymore? No, that's it. It should go back more. Go back more. Oh, you don't, do you? Okay, sorry, I'm just messing with that because I'm just fiddling with everything. You know, so there's the health risks of it, you know, and that's a very real, insurmountable, undisputed thing. That is definitely a thing. Then there's sort of the financial commitment for it, and it's crippling. It's absolutely crippling. I don't have enough money to make it through the month. Most months, I am, financially screwed, fucked. Like, I do this. This is my job. And this brings in staggeringly little money. And is growing very, very slowly and not getting me anywhere. And so it's sort of hard enough to continue things the way they are and still have this massive financial burden that is weed. And it's huge. It is a huge financial burden. And that in itself, like, so tonight I would, if normally I would have gone to got some weed tonight, and I might have even gone earlier in the day, were it a normal day, right? I'd be stoned now. Okay. Yeah, the GP's not great for this sort of thing. They would send me to the local drug project and have me go through that, and I really don't want to. I really don't need some fucking drug worker telling me how to do this. Like, I know the theory behind it. And my doctor is notoriously crap, just in general anyway. So I don't want to go the GP route, and I don't know what they would do for me, to be honest. That I would benefit from as such. So that's the thing. And yeah, the financial cost of it is huge. If I wanted to get some more weed tonight, I couldn't afford it. I would have to I would have to find some cash from somewhere. And it would probably come out of my electricity bill. To be honest, that's what would happen. And so yeah, the financial burden of it is crippling. I'll spend at least as much a month on weed as I do on rent, which is that's insane. That's so much money. And so for those two reasons alone, and plus also I don't know how it's helping me anymore. I just assume that it is. And I've kind of lost touch with all the things that I think it's helping me with. So I'm not really getting any better. I'm just coping with something, and I'm not dealing with the thing that I'm dealing with. Right? So but I don't even know what it is. Like, what was the weed helping me with? And I don't know anymore. I've lost track of it. I've lost that original idea, that thing it was, that it was helping me with. But it is a coping mechanism. It is something that is letting me cope with other stuff. And until I've at least figured out what that is, I can't be having it. Like, as much as I want it, There's like a conscious want, and there's a subconscious awareness that I shouldn't, if that makes any sense. And so I can sit here and give you all these reasons why, and they can all make sense, and they can all be very sensible, and I stand behind all of them. But I still want some weed right now. I am really only doing a live stream, main reason, so that I don't go out and buy some weed tonight. If I'm talking to you, I can't do this, right? If I'm on a live stream, I can't do it. And that's another reason why I started making videos about it today and posted videos and said I'm going to try and do this and all of that. And it just puts another little edge of, like, if I have to own up to people that I wasn't doing well, then maybe it will spur me on to do a bit better. That's the hope anyway. We'll see how well that goes. The nicotine cravings I'm fine with. Because that, yeah, the vape is fine. The vape, these light up as well, which I hate, by the way. And then they flash. Why? Why? But the nicotine addiction is fine. And this is just a tester one. I have others downstairs that I'm much happier with. I haven't smoked cigarettes for years. It's something I sort of, once I discovered vaping, I didn't struggle with the thing. The thing with CBD oils. Right. First of all, they don't get you stoned. The CBD is not the stuff that gets you stoned. So that in itself is, that's the problem, because I'm going for the stuff that gets you stoned. And CBD specifically doesn't have that as a feature. It's the THC in the cannabis that you want for that. So CBD oil wouldn't really help me in that sense. Also, I'm still of the opinion that while I'm very on board with vaping, and I've been vaping since, want to say 2015. 2015, 2016, something like that, right? Around that time. And I'm cool with it as a concept, right? I think it's a perfectly safe thing, right? And I'm saying that as someone who's vaped for years, as someone who has made his own vape liquid over the years and stuff like that. There's nothing bad in it. However, you shouldn't vape oil, right? The CBD oils terrify me, absolutely terrify me, because every single time over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years that there has been an inflammatory news article about vaping, about all this, people who got injured, hurt from vaping, all of this sort of thing. You dig a little deeper and you find out they were all vaping oil. And here's the problem with that. Here's the science. Oil doesn't vaporize. Oil, right? This is not oil. This is vegetable glycerin, which you use in cake making, right? There are flavorings, there are nicotines, and there's what's the other stuff? The NPG. Oh, I've forgotten the name of it now. Which is actually the stuff that makes smoke machines in nightclubs work. It's the same stuff. So what you're vaping here is vegetable sugars, smoke machine, and flavoring. Right? There's nothing in here that you don't consume in your day-to-day life at some point, right? This is fine. This is good. This is all fine. And these things vaporize when they get hot. They turn into vapor. Oil doesn't, because it's oil, right? Try evaporating some oil, right? You can't do that. We've all done the distillation of crude oil at school in chemistry lessons, and you know that you can't vaporize oil. So when you put oil in a vape, like with a CBD oil vape, what it actually does is the oil sort of piggybacks on the back of the stuff that does vaporize, and you inhale that, and it sits there in your lungs forever, this oil, and it harms your lungs massively. So honestly, there's really no way on earth I would vape CBD oil. I hate it. I think it's a really bad thing, and I advise everybody against it. Seriously. I think it would be a nice idea if it worked and was safe, but it's not, and it isn't. So there's that. But what you're saying in the chat there, Sam, so I'm escaping. Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's it. That's the one. Welcome to weed. I'm escaping. I'm escaping this. Right? Reality. All the things I haven't done that I should have done. All those things. Yeah. That's what I'm escaping. Personality disorders, dark thoughts, hyperactivity, all this stuff. Oh, do you mean other CBD oils? I know you can get it in a cream, can't you? That's a thing. But yeah, it's really, I use it. It's a zoning out. It's I don't know. It's like a full stop after things, you know, and that's where I'm noticing that I'm having the most trouble with it. Right? I was fine this morning. Got over that, but had a lot of energy throughout the day. Like too much, couldn't sit still kind of energy. You know, and I've been all over the place today. We've been out, I've been shopping, I've been for walks. I've needed to move all day, which is why, despite having a day of no weed and focus, I don't know, my videos still went out pretty late, that kind of thing. So I'm fine throughout the day, but once it got to evening and my videos were posted and I'd eaten dinner and it's time to just chill out, whatever, that's when it started getting tough. And remains so right now. So that's the thing. And what I'm trying not, I mean, the ridiculous thing is, I'm trying not to focus on it, right? Pardon me, I'm trying not to think about it. Because if I think about it and focus on it and sit here going, oh, I haven't got any weed, I need some weed, I need some weed, then of course I'm going to feel awful. Of course I'm going to feel awful. I need to distract myself and think about anything else, basically. And at the moment, I'm going through a stage of fear and panic because what if I run out of things to do? Right? What's going to happen between now and bedtime? Am I going to want to go to bed? Am I going to feel like it's time to go to bed when I haven't smoked anything, when there's been no full stop at the end of the day, that kind of thing? But yeah, the idea is to change the routine. The idea is to change the routine. And it's all well and good. Just sort of, oh, I need to change the routine. But it's hard. Um, and so I just need to, I don't know. I need to find something else to focus on. I need to find that better, healthier coping mechanism. Trouble is, like I said in today's video, I don't know what I'm coping with yet. Entirely. Um, I don't know how this is all going to play out, but I do know that in the evening it gets a whole lot harder. There are other justifications for it now, right? And this is what I'm very aware of. Like, I can talk myself round into accepting that it's okay to break today, right? Because I'm not prepared for anything. I'm not, I've not dealt with anything that I'm coping with. And you can sort of talk yourself around into, well, if I just do it in the evenings, right? That would be okay. I could just do it at night. And that's not how it works, right? I could just do it at night. That would be far less damaging. I would smoke significantly less. I would get through less weed, thus less tobacco. I would be in less danger health wise, all of that stuff. But it doesn't eliminate it, but it reduces it significantly. And the truth is, I know I can't do that. That is too hard. It's hard enough sitting here now, knowing that if I really, really, really wanted to, I could try and get some. But that's if it was here and I was trying to not smoke it, I'd have no chance. I'd have absolutely no chance. I don't have that level of self-discipline whatsoever, and I know I don't. Good evening, Dr. Ruth. And so yeah, it has to be a kind of a it no, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing, but it will be an all or nothing kind of thing. Right. Once it's in the house, it's being smoked until it's gone. That's just it. And it doesn't matter whether it's nighttime or I've just got up or whatever. If it's in the house, it's getting smoked. So it can't be in the house. Um, but I will try and justify it that way. That's it. I just need to reducing it is it's not gonna work for me. I think it's a great idea. I know there are some things that it's dangerous to not reduce first. And weed is definitely not one of those things. But it's yeah, I don't have that level of self discipline, and I'm aware that I don't. I don't want to put myself through that. And yet there's still this thought of, but if I could just do it, if I could just do that, if I could just justify it to smoke in the evenings. Um, but I can't do that. That's giving up, you know? Pringles. Yeah. Once I've popped, I can't stop, is my problem. And so I have to not pop in the first place. Easier said than done, but it's good in theory. It could quite happily work. Um, I developed NPD because of that. Do you think, Ray? Really? Really? No, not at all. Not at all. I have no doubts as to why I developed BPD, NPD, but it was absolutely nothing to do with that. I didn't discover weed until I was sort of, let's see. So my history was I left school after my A levels, as you do, went to uni for a year, discovered smoking resin, which never really did it for me. Never did it for me. Not even when I was fully into weed. Smoking resin's just not. Um, doesn't cut it for me. Never has. Right? It's yeah. It's an odd one. Resin and the squidgy black stuff. All of that. And so I kind of just dismissed it. I tried it. Didn't hate it. But I didn't really get much out of it and didn't think of it again. And my immediate circle of friends at the time weren't into that sort of thing. So nothing happened there. Then went back for another first year at uni, different course. Didn't really have any then at all. I never noticed it until I got to third uni. Because, you know, we all go to three, don't we? We all try three of them. And started that course. And that was when I discovered weed, right? In the early days of that course. So I was God no, I was actually older. So I was 18 to 19, 19 to 21. I was 21, 22 years old, 21ish. When I discovered weed. Yeah, I've been 21. So by that time I was already in it. I was already in all these things, you know? And since then, so I've been smoking weed for about 23 years. Every day. For about 23 years. With the exception of holidays. Right? Literal trips away. The only the only time I smoked weed abroad is when we went to Amsterdam, which is kind of partly what Amsterdam is there for, and that was, you know, that was part of the trip. But yeah, it's been all day, every day for 23 years. With all, you know, so trips away because you, like, you know, you're going to Vegas and San Francisco. No weed there, didn't do that, and quite frankly, however much I've ever wanted a spliff, it's never been worth the possible punishment one would get in the United States for being in possession of weed. And so it's been around for that long. And I don't entirely know what I'm like without it. It's all a bit of a mystery. Like, just as much as what am I using it to cope with? Because what I was using it to cope with was 23 years ago. Right? That's when it started. I was coping with all the stuff I was coping with 23 years ago. Now, it's fair to say that I have shrugged some of that off over recent years, whatever it may have been. But I don't know myself without this. And I'm curious. I'm honestly curious as to what it's like not being a stoned person. And yeah, it's even so far. Right now, look, it's been a day. It's not even a day. It's not even 24 hours since I last smoked something as I sit here right now, right? It's you know, that's easy. But already I am like coughing a lot less. There's no dull ache in the middle of my chest from like breathing in. There's no coughing up phlegm all the time and all of that. I think the only time I've coughed today was when I over vaped the very strong vape. And that's just it's designed to catch the back of your throat. Um, so that's been it. There are immediate. And do you know what else? I'm sort of free of. I haven't noticed any like little aches and pains today. Like most days, there's a lot of like, oh, this hurts. Oh, I don't feel well in my tummy. All of this, and I'm starting to realize it's this thing. This is just how I make myself feel, and I've sort of lost touch with how it feels to be stoned because it's not a thing. I know about normal and not stoned. Right? I know what days like today feel like, where I'm just desperate for more. And I know what it feels like to feel level and normal. I have some weed. But I've totally lost touch of like those early days when weed was a smoke this to feel good. Smoke this for fun, for giggling, for talking shit with your mates and all of this stuff. All the fun positive side of weed. Because look, as with all drugs, if these things weren't fun, no one would do them. Right? I mean, this is a difficult thing that a lot of people have trouble facing up to. Right? Do you know heroin? It's fucking awesome. Right? I don't know firsthand, but I've watched people destroy their lives to have more. And yeah, it's addictive. But it's also fucking amazing. Otherwise, no one would ever have taken it. And the same goes for all. Drugs are fun. I've just lost my monetization on this video probably, but there is a positive side to this. Much like people enjoy getting drunk, and yes, I group alcohol in with drugs. And alcohol in itself is far more damaging. Immediately to your body, to your health, to your lifestyle, to your wallet, to your friends and family, to relationships. Alcohol is a horrid, horrid thing that I hate immensely. And is weirdly the most accepted of all drugs. You get birthday cards for people that talk about how much they love alcohol and that kind of thing. I can't go to Asda and buy a birthday card with a big marijuana leaf on the front, but I can go and get one with a bottle of wine on. I can go and get one that is shaped like a pint of beer. Right? All these things. God, yeah. So yeah, it's a weird day, and I don't know what's gonna happen next. I still feel hyper though. I'm not comfortable sitting in this chair talking to you. I would rather be pacing around the house talking to you. I'm happy talking to you, but sitting still doing it. And there hasn't been a second since I started that there hasn't been something in my hand. This is the thing. Let's have a look at the chat anyway, because I've kind of just been. Hi everybody. Hi Ray Justice. Hi Dog Training Mexico. On a serious note, do I have a lot more friends now after the diagnosis or what? No, not especially. I wouldn't say it's in any way affected my friendships. The people that I was friends with before didn't care because it was still just me, right? I mean, at that point, most of my really close friends had known me for like 20 years, right? They're the same friends that I started smoking weed with 23 years ago, right? And so they just know me anyway. So saying, right, I'm like this because of this thing I have doesn't make a difference. I'm still just me, and if anything, I'm actually a little more calmer now. I'm probably easier to take. But in terms of more friends, no, not so much. It's not been a thing at all. Um, so that's the thing. But yeah, it's the diagnosis hasn't really affected friendships at all. And people going forward, I mean, who are the people I come up against? I guess I've got to find a new band. That's got to be a thing. So I don't know. Will there be new friends with that? I thought there were friends with the old one, and then after a year, they're like, sorry, Rich, we just want to be a Stone Roses tribute band. Do you want to play or do you want to fuck off? And I chose to fuck off. So I don't know where we stand on considering those people friends as such, but it's a social thing, and I don't fear it being a thing that gets in the way. So I don't know. Am I scared of who I am without the weed? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Um, I am most scared that I won't be able to calm down. That this feeling that I have, that I've had all day, that I want to go for a run, that I can't sit still, that I can't focus on anything, that I can't concentrate, all of this stuff. I feel like this is what it was doing. You know, I feel like it was keeping me far less hyper. Like far less hyper. You know, and so that's the bit that scares me. I don't worry who I am as a person. I think I'll be fine. I worry about whether I'll be more or less funny. Like, I don't know if I'm funnier when I'm stoned because I'm funnier when I'm stoned, or if I just think I'm funnier when I'm stoned because I'm stoned. So these are questions that you can't answer until you have some time without the weed. So I need to have some time without the weed, and then I can analyze this, I can sit in these emotions and these feelings, and I can ask myself, where do these come from? What is this source of these feelings? Because, you know, it's kind of like I'm mini grouping myself. It does sound like ADHD, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Very much so. Yes. I mean, like, I know I'm a BPD NPD channel, but I'm not in any way claiming that the weed has helped me with BPD NPD. That's I'm in no way making that claim because I don't think it has. I don't think it did at all. So I don't think it's gonna make BPD NPD any worse or better. I've never felt like it had an effect on those things at all. It seems to affect this magical third leg of issue that I have that is not explained by cluster B, which looks massively like ADHD. Doing about anything about that remains a massive, massive problem. Massive problem. Because what do? You have to look for a. Do I have to look for an NHS assessment? They made it very clear that I could seek out private assessment, but if I seek out private assessment, they wouldn't treat me on the NHS. So it kind of negates the point. And I don't know if that's universally true or if that was just my doctor telling me some shit or what, but that's what I'm working from. And so I'm still waiting for the fucking forms to be sent out to me. It's been a couple of weeks at this point. I now have to start chasing shit up, and we're at step 1. I'm not even at referral, and I'm having to chase shit up. And these are the same doctors that gave me antidepressants for 18 years. Right? That was that you feel better. Well, here are some more antidepressants. I've been taking them for a decade. Oh, well, here's some more. Right? And as soon as you speak to a specialist, as soon as you speak to a psychiatric specialist and you tell them I've been on an antidepressant, I remember the moment when he was writing and he looked up and he went, what? And he put his pad and paper down and he just looked at me and went, he just shook his head and he went, no, no, right? Antidepressants are like paracetamol for a headache. You have a headache, you take paracetamol, it goes away. If you have a headache and you take the paracetamol and it doesn't go away, then it's not just a headache. And he was like, you could see this was someone who was sat there a bit pissed off at the world. Like, what the hell have they done to this guy? And so I'm now tasked with going back to the exact same people to say, excuse me, I think I have ADHD. At a time where TikTok exists and every fucking adult on the planet is saying, I think I have ADHD. Right? And I'm just waiting for the fucking forms to be sent to me. Right? I'm not even at the point of referral. And it's already something I'm having to chase up. So I don't know. I kind of want to start doing videos about that process. Because look, one of the big things I get asked for on live streams and stuff like that, TikTok mostly, but it's always, how do I get a diagnosis? How do I get a diagnosis? And also, my GP isn't listening to me. And how do I get my GP to listen to me? Right, the way I got my GP to listen to me, I went to the surgery with the carving knife from the kitchen. And I jumped onto the reception desk in the surgery and sat there. And I turned to the receptionist and said, go and get my doctor now, or I'm going to cut my throat and bleed out over reception. And she went and got my doctor, who took me into the back room and said, what's the problem? And I explained the problem, and I explained that I've been, took them through it. Because this is allegedly my doctor, right? Who apparently knows everything I've got fucking going on, but actually doesn't know anything. And at that point, I'd already gotten to a point where somebody had told me that what I needed to do was get DBT. Like, that was, you need DBT. I can't even remember where I got that from at this point. I can't remember who had said that to me. It was not my doctor. And I, convinced, I was because I knew nothing about BPD, NPD at this point. Nothing at all. And was convinced I needed DBT. And this guy was right, I'll sort you some DBT out now. I'll phone the hospital, you go and get DBT. So I called him a few names, took my carving knife, and fucked off to Airedale General Hospital. And they kept me sat in reception for about 6 hours. And then the police turned up and arrested me. And I saw nobody. And then after that, I was actually given a psychiatric, person, supervisor, someone who would come to the house occasionally and see how I was doing. And he was the person who actually got me to see the specialist, who actually referred me to the woman who ran my group, who actually said, you should be in group. And I went to group, and here we are 3.5 years later. Now, getting the carving knife and going to your doctor's surgery to threaten cutting your throat open over reception is not a way I would recommend to get your doctor's attention. That is not a happy story. That is not a good story. That is not the way of doing it. And that was the point I was at. That was the point I was pushed to with that. Because I didn't care at that point. I was just, a big ball of suicidal ideation, and I was at the point of, if you can't stop this pain, I need to be dead now, because nothing else is going to stop this pain. And that was it. You're either going to stop this pain, or I'm killing myself now. And that was the point that somebody fucking listened. And it took me 18 years with this doctor to get to that point. And was not the only time I was brought home by police after threatening to kill myself either. So now I have to go and say I have ADHD. Can I have some sort of referral? Can you actually do your fucking job? And I know I'm talking to people who don't give a fuck. They don't care, they don't know, they don't want to do anything, they just want me out of their fucking face. And it's one thing when that thing turns out to be a couple of personality disorders that you've suffered from your entire life that they've been giving you antidepressants for 18 years. But ADHD, that's a very different thing. And, you know, it's great that there are a lot of resources around, and there's lots of people talking about ADHD. There's lots of people that do what I do, but with ADHD, and that's great. But ADHD isn't just, you know, there's medications here. There's reasons why I need to be assessed and deal with my doctor with it. Because there's so much going on in here that is not therapy related, right? I've done the therapy. If the therapy was going to affect this, it would have affected it at least a little, right? But it's not done that. There's a whole long list of things that all of that therapy didn't touch. It didn't go near. And it wasn't, in my opinion, because it's not something that we discussed or anything like that. I've just lost my train of thought because I looked at the chat room. Yeah, it's because it's, see, it's a, there's a miswiring, it feels like. Right? Because look, when you go to therapy, you don't go in with a big long list of symptoms and say, right, I need to deal with these things, please, on this list. And we'll just go through and tick them off. That's, of course, not how it works. You sit talking. And the longer you talk and the more you talk, the more comes out. And you start to face up to all these things and deal with stuff and that sort of thing. And so I am very confident over 3.5 years that everything I had to say got said. Right? Everything came out. I dealt with all of my past trauma, with my childhood, with my ex, all of it. And I'm so emotionally calm and steady with all of that stuff now. It's ridiculous compared to how I was, right? Therapy worked so much for me. Indisputably, I am here because of therapy. Like, still alive here because of therapy. But I still can't sit still. I still can't not be distracted by that thing over there. I still can't focus on things. I'm still not aware of the passage of time. I'm still not able to switch off and sleep. And so many of these other things. And like not being able to focus, not being aware of the passage of time, all these... That's not because my dad shouted at me a lot when I was a teenager. That's something else going on. Therapy is not going to touch this. I've done the therapy. It's not a self-improvement thing. It's not a watch a YouTube course kind of thing. There's something not wired correctly. And there is help to be had with that, but not here yet. And I am concerned at the moment, you know, while we're talking about this giving up weed, that those are the symptoms that weed helps with. that it's all that stuff. And I can have my coping mechanisms, my healthy coping mechanisms, I can have my plans, my alternative behaviors planned out, all of this shit. But at the end of the day, the things that the weed was treating aren't gonna go away with that. And so I am concerned that right now, today, I am fighting a losing battle. Because it's there's nothing emotional in this. There's nothing about my childhood. There's nothing about trauma. I am over my trauma. I have faced it. I have discussed it with a room full of people, all streaming with tears and blubbing week after week, year after year. I've worked through trauma. I've forgiven my inner child. I've forgiven my parents. I'm so many things. Emotionally, therapy's done for me. There's nothing more to be gained by more therapy for me at this point. Maybe in the future. But yeah, if the child has compassion, no need for medication, well, I'm not a child. And I'm fine with all the emotional stuff. I'm good. But ADHD is a medication level event. And it would be great to get some of that. It would be great to actually be helped. And so yeah, that's where I'm at with it. I definitely need some help. Um, it's starting to really sort of like distress me quite a lot. Like I feel like I'm really struggling. It's clearly not a psychological thing. Um, you know, do we have some? There's always one. There's always one. No, right. So my process for being diagnosed with ADHD so far, I have told my doctor I think I have ADHD and I would like an assessment. And she has said, right, I will send you out some forms and you need to fill out the forms and then it will be decided if you need assessment. And I've never received the forms. And that was about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. So yeah, now I have to now I have to go and chase that up, which is bullshit. Um, and what frustrates me is that she called, right? She actually called and said, I've got your message. Do you need me to send these forms out? And I'm like, yeah. And you're like, right, okay, I'll get that done. And then she apparently did nothing. Um, so I don't know what to do at this point. I do need to chase it up. Um, Dealing with that is an exercise in NPD therapy because I'm already thinking of the ways that, in an otherwise polite and friendly message, I can communicate the way that I think they're shit. You know, um, I haven't seen the ADHD assessment forms yet. I'm waiting for someone to send them to me, which I think is fucking ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. Um, and yeah, I've been warned about the forms, but you know, healthy doctors or drug dealers. Point Fire, are you on some sort of crusade here? You know, I would like to say post COVID it's all gone downhill, Sam, but no, I don't think it has. I think things have gotten worse post COVID, but I don't think they were ever good to start with. I've, like I say, I've never had a. I took a knife. I took a knife to the doctor's surgery and stood with it held up against my throat and said, "Get the doctor now." That was what it took. And that was before anyone had ever said the word COVID. Right? That was 2018. Um, and so that's what it took. Things aren't worse now. Things are the same. Things have always been disgustingly, unusably shit. And GPs have always been, oh, you've got depression, here's some antidepressants. Oh, are they not working? Here's some different antidepressants. No, they're not working because I've got two personality disorders and not depression. And it was weird that, first of all, when I came off antidepressants, I just stopped. I just stopped. Was I on fluoxetine at the time? And I stopped. I didn't wean myself off it. I just came from the highest dose to nothing one day. And felt nothing as a result. Nothing. No crash, no withdrawal, no nothing. I just felt the same. It's almost like I was taking a medication that had absolutely no effect on me whatsoever and that I didn't need. And ever since I stopped, not for a second have I wanted to go back on medication. Not for a second. Not at all. Certainly not for anything emotional. And, those antidepressants never did a thing. Look, what I've come to accept to give some sort of a benefit of the doubt that because I was there for so long, because they were prescribed for 18 years, they prescribed antidepressants. It might be possible within that 18-year period that I had a bout of depression. That could be a thing. I mean, it was 18 years and everybody suffers from depression at some point. And so there might have been that, but that was it. 18 years. Ending with the police taking me home. And it was appalling. It was appalling. And do you know what the worst thing about that day? I remember everybody who got involved with me apologized to the next person in the chain saying, "We're handling this wrong. I'm sorry." Right? Like when the police turned up, I heard the nurse apologizing to them, saying like, "Right, we've done this really bad. This guy shouldn't be here. We shouldn't have kept him. You shouldn't be here. Don't know what you want to do." And I know for a fact that they said that because when the police took me home, they apologized to my ex for even being there and to me, and then said, "The nurse said this to me. It's on my body cam. You can have a copy if you want." I didn't have depression. Point fire, are you on a not listening quest tonight? Is that your mission? Or to hear something, whatever. I've never had depression that I'm aware of. I've never been just depressed. I've had BPD and NPD for decades, but yeah, apart from that, I've never, to my awareness, had depression or simply depression or anything like that. And symptoms of BPD present as depression, right? I mean, how do you, without deep psychological assessment, how do you tell the difference between somebody turning up with undiagnosed BPD saying they just feel sad all the time and someone with actual depression? And yeah, we all slip through the cracks because we're dealing with people who just want us out of their office. So it was, you know, I started looking into private ADHD assessment. And even though it's something that in no way can I afford, it seemed to at least be a way to get some acknowledgement and some help. But, you know, I don't know how true that is. That if I'm assessed privately, I can only be prescribed medication privately. And I'm assuming that a private prescription probably costs significantly more money than an NHS prescription, etc. And so I don't know if they've told me that to attempt to put me off getting private assessment, whether it's actually true or whatever, but it's a fairly moot point because, again, I can't afford private assessment. That's not a thing. It's not really an option. I had a friend who had it done recently who got help through a university. But obviously that's not an option, and I've been led to believe that private assessment is then essentially pointless anyway. It's just a nice bit of information. It's a nice thing that makes me go, huh, so I have got ADHD. But if I'm not being medicated for it, then what's the fucking point? You know? So I don't know. It's the next most frustrating thing. And I think like making series of videos about it as much as I can would be a useful thing. Maybe for me, maybe for other people as well. I don't know if they'd find it off-putting. Because to be honest, when people say, how do I get a BPD assessment? And I say, well, I took a carving knife to my doctor's. That's not helpful. And once again, don't do that. Don't do that, right? I had an NPD rage to get attention for it. It took that. And it took that that NPD sort of, I am going to stand here and you are going to fucking listen to me kind of thing. You know, when I think, what kind of person does it take to, in the depths of suicidal ideation, to storm into a crowded room, to stand on a table, to shout this out? You know, that's not generally how people do that kind of thing. You know? So here we are. I can't be doing that again. So I don't know how to move forward from this other than to do whatever my doctor says and to keep badgering and chasing things up when she doesn't do what she's supposed to do. And I don't know what else to do, because just talking to people, just going to see your doctor doesn't do it. And people ask me, well, so what do? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to do when your doctor ignores you or doesn't do what they say they're going to do. I don't know. You know, and it's a fucking disgrace that I could get to that point, right? It's sad that I did, but it's a fucking disgrace that I could, right? I did not suffer silently for years. I was at the doctor all the time. I was crying for help daily, screaming for help. There is something wrong. Help me. This isn't right. And no one gave a fuck. No one gave a fuck. My ex will still brag about how she managed to ignore that all. Because it was so damaging for her to have to listen to that all the time. Which is another fucked up thing, to be perfectly honest. Oh, your cries of pain were so irritating to me. Why didn't you just stop crying out in pain? because no one would fucking listen. No one gives a fuck. And this is ultimately the message that I end up having for people that ask me that question, like, how do I get help? And you don't. No one gives a shit. No one gives a fuck. No one cares about you. The people who say they love you, to a point, then no, right? Your doctors don't give a fuck. Don't give a shit. And these people are all the gatekeepers, you know? And they fucking love it. They fucking love it. I made a video about, and this is an early morning barking video, about how your loved ones will abandon you if you have a BPD problem for too long. And I saw my ex shortly after that, and she was like, yeah, you're right, we will. And we're right to. And you think, well, you think some fairly hideous things about people that do that. To be perfectly honest, you know, it's like, God, his leg's broken and he just keeps screaming that it hurts. Should we help him? No, he should just shut the fuck up. And that's mental health, certainly in this country. You know, it's a thing. So I don't really think most people give a fuck. Individuals might for a bit, to a point. You know, it's not fair to say no one cares, I suppose, because that's not true. And obviously things are very different for me now, and that was, you know, a very toxic relationship that I was in. But it's not a unique set of circumstances. There was nothing special about it. It was, you know, that attitude that I got from my relationship is one I've heard echoed around the internet since I started doing this. The not getting attention from your GP is something I've heard constantly. The cries for help that just are met with "shut the fuck up" is a common thing. And I think I'm more lucky now to not be in that situation. You know, and it's just by luck that it's happened this way. You know, and it's also come out, you know, I don't want to kill myself anymore. That's not a daily complaint for me anymore. I don't have these daily cries of pain anymore, because that's all in the past now. And so it's, you know, it's all easier to deal with now. I'm a much better person to be around day to day. Hi Sarah. Yeah, it's been a long story. I guess we're just on getting an ADHD assessment. We're kind of on giving up weed. Oh, I've reminded myself. You know, so yeah. I am gonna get off now because it's been over an hour. And I'm kind of, I don't know. Does anyone have any questions or anything like that? I feel like I've been a bit neglectful of the chat because I just talk sometimes. I'm sorry coming in after a long story, Sarah. It's Sarah, isn't it? I do apologize. And so it's, yeah, the live will be up. So you can go and check the last hour that I've been ranting at stuff. But it all comes down to me wanting to give up weed for the cost and the health reasons, which is still a thing. But I still feel like, as I sit here right now, I'm fighting something that I'm now having to fight more as I sit here. Also, all of these arguments are ways to justify going and getting some weed as soon as I turn off this live feed. don't think I'm not thinking about it. Because I can sit here and go, well, it's all ADHD, really. Nothing's going to change. There's not really any point in giving this up until I've had the ADHD assessment, etc. All of that. There's really no point. It's just a losing battle. I can probably just keep it to the evenings anyway. Fuck. Anyway, I'm going to get off. And we'll see what happens. Still sat here. A little bit. Yeah. But thank you for watching, everybody. And thank you for everybody turning up, because I know it was a live show without warning. And I do like to give some warning. But you all did very well, and I'm very grateful for that. You've all been awesome. And thank you for your continued support of the channel. It is invaluable to me. I'm struggling with anything emotionally at the moment. It's determination with early morning barking. That's being a thing. That's what I'm dealing with emotionally. But we're all still here. Nothing's going away. Don't worry. But all the support you can muster is greatly, greatly appreciated. A lot. And I'm very grateful for those of you who do support me. So thank you ever so much for that. So until tomorrow, when I will be back with, I have a live stream tomorrow night with Jacob. People seem to like those. They are fun. And that will be a main video as well. And then on Wednesday, I'll be live with Dr. Ruth here on this very channel. So look out for those. They're coming up. It's going to be a fun week of videos and stuff. And we'll have a week of me climbing the walls on TikTok with no weed. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. You betcha. I do need to get some more Zelda played, though. That is another thing. You are absolutely right with that. You are absolutely stone cold right with that. Some more Zelda needs to happen, because I've had another weekend of looking at videos of what people have built in that game, and I need to go and build myself an attack drone out of ancient stones and machine parts. And it will be fine. So, you guys. Hey, you guys.